and welcome everyone to What's Your Story? I am Leilani Langdon, your host for tonight. And What's Your Story is a space where we journey together with the stories of others so that you can be inspired to know, own, and share yours. And so I'm excited to have you on. If you are part of the What's Your Story community, you know what to do. Go ahead and leave me a hi, hello. Let me know you're here. I want to acknowledge you. If this is your first or second time watching, I need you to tell me where you're watching from because we want to shout you out. But go ahead and do that now. As always, I want to remind you that this is a safe space. It is a space where we journey together with the stories of others. And as a result, our chat is a judgment-free zone. If you are part of our community, listen, this is one of the most encouraging and affirming communities I have been a part of. And I'm so grateful that I get to be, to journey with you guys every Sunday. So Gio, hey girl, so good to see you as you're coming in, drop in your hellos. Hey Cecile. Oh man, I'm so excited that you're here tonight with me. If this is your first time, tell me where you're watching from. But again, the chat is a judgment-free zone. It's a space for empowerment and affirmation. It's a space for love. It's a space for support. It's a space to affirm one another and not just affirm the people who are courageously sharing their story, but it's actually to affirm one another. So as we're going through the chat and as we're going through the experience tonight, you're going to see people who are contemplating things as a result of what they're hearing, or they're moved by something and they'll drop it in the chat. And so it's your job to help me by helping someone else. And so that is your role. Hey, Evie. Hey, Ryan from I-70, somewhere between Columbus and Naperville. Listen, Ryan, I appreciate your support because Ryan tunes in while he's driving. Now, I want to tell you that Ryan is not texting and driving because he is a responsible adult and he is a responsible part of our community. He is voice texting, right, Ryan? Anyway, I love that you're here. So good to have you. Adrian is watching while the kids watch Life of Pets next to me in the room beside me. And I'm just so grateful to have you guys here. Anyway, yes, voice to text, Ryan. I got you. Just in case, some people be like, well, why is he texting it? No. But as always, What's Your Story starts with a What's Your Story highlight. It starts with a What's Your Story highlight. And family, you know what this is. Our What's Your Story community knows what this is. And this is an opportunity for us to celebrate one of you for being inspired to know, own, or share your story. Or it's just an opportunity for us to celebrate a courageous move that you're making, a step that you're taking towards something that God is calling you to do. And so if you are inspired to do something, if you are inspired to know, own, or share your story, go ahead and send me a DM during the week and we want to celebrate you. So I am going to pull up our What's Your Story highlight for tonight. Here, now this is something else I want you guys to do. So What's Your Story community, go ahead and share What's Your Story so people can jump on and be moved and inspired. So our What's Your Story highlight tonight is coming from none other than Michaela Lawrence Jeffrey. Man, I'm so excited to share this highlight, but she says, a year ago, I started a podcast called Word Habit. I invite others to send me a word that matters to them and 100 words saying why. The podcast is either my response to what they've written or an exploration of a word that matters to me. Even though I see value in this identification and explanation exercise, I had never thought about podcasting as anything more than a fun thing I do that's helping me with my writing life. Perfectionism had me stalling on an episode for weeks. I continued stalling by tuning into What's Your Story, just as Cherie was sharing her story about leaving her residency program. And this was last week, guys. That was enough to keep me watching. Hearing her and Dejan talk about how God was using their circumstances for the sake of others helped me realize that even though podcasting is fun, it is not just for me. The next day, I knocked out the episode 19 and I'm already making time to prep for 20. It's truly above me now in the best of ways. Listen, if you're part of the community, you know that this is an opportunity for us to celebrate our What's Your Story highlight. Michaela, we want to celebrate you. So drop the party hats as we are recapping this highlight. Michaela has a podcast called Word Habit. And I heard the episode. It's funny because I heard episode 19 and I was blown away by her thoughtfulness and her artistry in this episode. And I reached out to her and I said, girl, this is so good. And she said, actually, I was listening and I tuned in last week to What's Your Story, and Cherie and DJ's story inspired me so much that I needed to go ahead, and it moved me to take my podcasting to the next level and to make sure that I recognize that what I'm doing is not for me, it's for somebody else as well. And so we want to celebrate you, Michaela, for taking that step and being inspired to continue to move and pour into this project of podcast Word Habit. So if you have not checked it out, go ahead and do so on all the podcasting platforms, Word Habit there. So as always, I just want to celebrate her and thank her for her bravery towards sharing how she was inspired. So guys, listen, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our Did You Know moment. Now, today's Did You Know moment is, yes, Crystal, throw up some congrats to Michaela for sharing that story from one from one procrastinator to another. Listen, the struggle is real. But our Did You Know moment this week, and most of you have maybe heard of this concept, but I wanted to reiterate it because it was such a powerful reminder to me this week. There is a form of Japanese art called kintsugi, and it's literally, the meaning of kintsugi is literally joined together with gold. And it is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, broken ceramic pottery, by mending the areas of breakage with actual gold. Now, the idea behind kintsugi art is that it treats the breakage of this ceramic piece as an opportunity to repair it through highlighting its broken parts rather than disguising them. All right. So listen, I need you to hear this again. The kintsugi art method is one that takes something that was broken, and instead of hiding its brokenness or throwing it away or discarding it as not good enough, it takes the broken parts and joins them together with gold. And what's crazy about this method is that it takes a random and plain ceramic item, and it allows it through this method to gain value and become more beautiful. Now, if you're listening, I need you to hear what I'm saying. We live in a society that praises perfectionism, that its motto is to hide who you are. We need to normalize seeing beauty in imperfection, seeing beauty in scars, seeing beauty in brokenness. Because here's the reality, that your story is made up of scars. Your scars are your story. God wants us to highlight our story, not hide them. God wants us to highlight our scars, not hide them. And so when you're going through your process of healing, and when you're taking your lived experiences, right, and the things that have hurt us and the things that have caused us pain, the lie that we tell ourselves, and I told you this before, the lie that we've told ourselves is that they're better left untold. They're better left hidden in the dark where no one can see them. But this form of art takes the brokenness of this jar and joins it together to make it more valuable and beautiful. And this is what God wants to do with your story. God wants to take your story and your broken pieces and heal them and fuse them together so that he can magnify those scars, allow beauty to shine through them so that he himself can shine through. And listen, on the end of this Easter weekend, I couldn't neglect the fact that Jesus himself, when he resurrected in perfection, he kept his scars. Okay. He kept his scars. And why do you think that is? Is because your scars are your story. They are your story. But the beauty about scars is that they're healed. And so today I am encouraging you to allow yourself to be healed in the master's hand, to allow yourself to allow God to heal you and bring you together to shine through those broken parts. And so today I just want to encourage you to do that. And I wanted to actually show you a picture of what it looks like. If you have never seen this, here's what it is. It's a broken piece of ceramic that has been joined with gold to become more beautiful. And today I encourage you to own your story, to know your story, and to allow God to join you together so that he can shine through those broken parts. And so go ahead and allow him. Yes, the more cracks, the more gold. How beautiful. I love that. Listen, that's a hashtag waiting to happen. Last week we had some hashtags that are bringing life to people, and I can't wait to share next week. But yes, the more cracks, the more gold. How beautiful. That is beautiful. I feel very imperfect today. Yes, we are imperfect, but through the coming together, God will shine through. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Darleny, who is our What's Your Story guest today. So let's go ahead and bring her on. Darleny, how are you, my friends?
I am good. How are you?
Oh, man, I am blessed. It is so good to have you on. And I'm going to say this first because I always forget this. But listen, guys, as you are hearing and journeying with Darleny through her story, I'm encouraging you, if you have a question, if something pops to your mind, go ahead and type it in the comments and we will answer. She'll answer these questions at the end. But Darleny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, yeah. So, as Leilani said, my name is Darleny. I was born in New York, raised in Hoboken, New Jersey. That's actually where Leilani and I met. We grew up going to
Throwback.
church together.
Yes, we did.
Just a few years ago.
Right.
I
Let's
am
not tell
now,
them.
right? I am now a project manager in the localization translation industry, and I'm a part-time photographer. So, hello.
Excellent. And that is she does beautiful work. Your title, localization, girl, you're gonna have to break that down for me.
I know. Localization. Basically, we help companies like in the life sciences, medical, pharmaceutical companies localize or prepare their material to use in other countries and other languages.
Oh, that is
So,
exciting.
yeah, so we translate their manuals for medical devices. During this whole COVID situation, we were
Yes.
translating the manuals, the testing stuff. So
Wow.
that's just
That's
localization, just a fancy word
amazing.
for translation.
Got it. I was like, girl, you're gonna have to break that down. But we're getting some shout outs for Jersey. Yeah, yeah. Some Jersey shout
Jersey.
outs. Jersey's in the house tonight. But that Lenny's, as always, we go ahead and jump right in. So tell us, what is your story?
Man, guys, this is like a over 20-year-old narrative in my life
Hmm.
that I've been carrying. So when I was 10 years old, I started to lose my hair. My mom
Hmm.
was combing my hair one night, as she would always do. My sister and I, side point, we had some big poofy curly hair.
I remember.
Leilani, I'm
I,
sure exactly.
I remember.
I'm sure you remember. And, it was this thing of like, always combing through our hair, getting the rollers
Yeah.
in. And she found like a quarter size bald spot.
Hmm.
And, obviously, she was scared and she's like, what's going on? And then after that, like shortly after, like my hair just started falling out in
Hmm.
clumps.
Hmm.
And I was 10 years old, and when we first started seeing doctors, they were like, oh, it must be stress related or stress
Hmm.
induced.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, as a 10-year-old, what
Are you stressed
what could
about?
I be stressed about?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So it quickly progressed and it kind of got to the point where I felt as if I were a guinea pig because we were going to doctors all the time.
Mm.
Um, it like slowly progressed in a way, but also fast. But then the emotions of like feeling what's wrong with me? Am I sick? Like
Right.
what's going on? That was all starting to settle in and so we went to different dermatologists. First, my regular doctors, dermatologists, Then they were trying to do biopsies, thinking that maybe I had an infection of some sort
Oh
on
my
my skin,
gosh.
to then eventually diagnosing me with alopecia areata at that
Mm.
time. So, for those that may not know, alopecia is an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks your hair follicles. So,
Mm.
it could attack your hair on your scalp, your brows, lashes. I have no hair in my arms.
Wow.
It could attack anywhere, and it's also pretty sporadic, and you can't time it either. So
Hmm.
one moment you can have all your hair, and the next it falls out. Health
Wow.
wise, health wise, thankfully, we're okay. It's just that our immune system attacks our hair instead.
Wow.
So all that, like, I remember that happening between the transition of me going from fourth grade into fifth grade. So fifth grade,
Mm.
brand new school.
Middle school at
hmm
that.
Yes, middle school. And I just remember, like, it got to the point where my mom had to like side part my hair because all this was
Mm.
gone. And you can kind of see streaks still, right? And I remember the night before starting fifth grade, I was like praying and I was like, Lord, like, I know my hair can grow in overnight and I can go to school with all my hair,
Mm.
and that was just like my desire. And I was hoping onto that, like, all right, we're gonna make this work. Next day,
Yeah.
obviously, woke up and I still look the same.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like there's this constant struggle of that. Like I'm like praying and asking God, like, come on, can I have my hair? And
Yeah.
just all these emotions going into it. And yeah, I then started to feel self-conscious. Then when
Mm.
I was in the fifth grade and folks would ask, like, why does your hair look like that? I'm like, I don't know. Um,
Mm.
and I think from like sixth and seventh grade was just like a whole roller coaster ride. Because
Mm.
yeah, in middle school, what I noticed what we noticed was that as my hair fell out, my mom transitioned into having me wear bandanas or hats. And
Mm.
especially if you're the only kid in school wearing bandanas or hats, you're already singled out,
Yes. Right.
right? You're already singled out.
Right.
And I remember this one instance where in the cafeteria, some girls were, like making a big deal because I was wearing a bandana. And they're like, well, if
Mm.
she can wear a bandana, then we can wear bandanas. And it broke out into this whole fight, I guess, because they also wanted to wear bandanas. And I mean, this was in the
Mm.
90s, so wearing bandanas and colors was like a big thing.
Yes. In
Because,
Jersey
and
specifically.
yeah, in Jersey specifically, Hoboken, Jersey City, the whole color
Yeah.
situations with what you rep. But it got to the point where like kids were like flap up my bandana behind me. They try to like
Mm.
flip off my hat in school.
Wow.
Uh, and there's just one instance, and I remember the kids' names. I won't say it now, but they're from my building, and they were older
Mm.
kids, upperclassmen. And when I would walk home from school, they would yell from across the street, like, "Hey, you! Why are you wearing that? Take that ish off. Do you have
Mm.
cancer or something? Take that off!" And like
Wow.
laughing at me. I'm like, "But what if I did have cancer? Like, why would
Yeah.
you say that? You know?"
Right.
So it's just this like constant like at that point during that midpoint of middle school, it's where I started to feel left out and feel very different and like why is this happening to me? And I remember multiple times like coming home from school like crying.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that sadly I would constantly repeat to myself night after night was, God, I hate myself. I hate how
Wow.
I look. And for someone, being in the sixth, seventh grade saying that all the time, like,
Yeah.
I, yeah. So that was like the narrative, right, that I carried on. I felt left out. I
Mm.
felt alone. I felt like I was a diseased person, that something was wrong with me.
Wow.
Um, and I guess it didn't help too back then that, like, at least with alopecia, like, you wouldn't see people walking out bald, you know?
Right.
You were seen as someone that was sick. The only time you would see kids that were bald were when we would do the mathathon programs for like raising money for kids with cancer, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so luckily though, see, as I said, alopecia is very unpredictable. In eighth grade, my hair grew back. All of
All
it
of
grew
it?
back. Yeah, except for my
Wow.
sideburns. It was an awkward thing, but mo all of it grew in eighth grade. In high school, I had all my hair, and quickly my confidence changed the way I walked. I thought I
Right.
was all that, honestly. And I had all my hair in high school, and I felt great, And it wasn't until my senior year of high school, and
Mm.
my mom always has a way to tell you things without telling you, like kind of like that
Directly?
indirect mom. Yeah,
Yeah.
like she would always tell me, like, Darlene, your hair is a blessing from God. Don't, mistreat it. Don't dye it. Don't do these things that you're trying to do because she's like, you
Mm.
need to stay humble. I'm like, yeah, 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 okay.
Interesting.
And yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this was related to it, but I was always dyeing my hair in high school because I thought, why not? I have all
Why
my hair.
not? Yeah, yeah.
And senior year, I dyed my hair blue black. That it was itching, and after that, it like thinned out. And from there, I never got it back.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's
Wow.
related, but yeah.
Sure. But that was part of the experience.
Yeah. And after then, I had to wear a wig for my high school graduation. I was able to wear tracks though for when I started college. So that was a whole transition in and of itself. But then in my second year of college, my hair wasn't gonna be able to hold tracks anymore, so I had to
Sure.
transition to wigs.
Mm.
Um,
What was it
mhm.
like getting your hair back and in senior year losing it again? What was that like for you? Because
Uh,
you had regained that confidence with your hair growing back, and then all of a
yeah.
sudden it's gone again.
It's crazy. It kind of felt like a part of me was being slowly pulled out.
Hmm.
Where it's like, I was in all these sports and I was doing all these things with my hair all out, and out of nowhere, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really felt like a part of me was being pulled out, and it affected, how I walked. It affected everything. Like one of the things that I noticed from then, and even what I carried on into my adulthood, is that I would always walk with my head down. Um,
Hmm.
I I I guess I would say I felt confident in a way only when I wore my wigs.
Ah.
Um, yeah, so like in college when I had that moment of transitioning out of tracks into wigs, I felt okay, with the wigs. But for those that have worn wigs, like, if your edges are coming up a bit or if it's windy, that's what you kind of hold your head down. And
Right.
that's kind of what I noticed I was doing. I was always looking down. If it's a windy day, I would never hold my head up. I
Hmm.
avoided going to pools. I avoided the beach. I avoided going on rides in
Wow.
theme parks, things that I actually enjoyed. Um, and so that was holding me back. And um, I guess even transitioning into adult life after I graduated college and I started working in the city in New York,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was the same thing all over again. I'm like, but I'm an adult. Like, I was struggling with the confidence issues and walking with my head held high. I was always walking down. Um, and I think one of the things that, these things that I'm mentioning to you now started adding up in a way where
Okay.
um it was making me feel a sense of discomfort where I'm like something needs to change, right? So like
Hmm.
feeling like okay, I'm walking with my head down. I started to notice these things more.
Hmm.
That I was being held back from doing certain things
Yeah.
because I was wearing a wig. I was getting all these like rashes from my wig tape, and one of the moments too that I felt like, Dee, what are you doing? Was how much I was spending on wigs. Um,
Hmm.
and the wigs I would get, so I would mostly get like the all lace wigs for folks with alopecia, and
Sure.
these wigs easily go for $3,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think in college I spent about 9 to 10 thousand just on wigs.
Wow.
And then when I started working after college, I probably spent about another 10K too.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where I think the very last wig that I bought, it was like I felt as if I would do anything to get the money just to buy the wig to
Wow.
be okay. And it was those feelings that I was like, man, but why am I feeling this way? Where it's like, why am I, trying to scramble just to get this money, just to get a wig, but like why, you know?
Mm.
Um, and it wasn't until, all these things adding up, and it honestly, Leilani, it wasn't until I know it sounds very cheesy probably, but I was getting ready for church on a Sabbath, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I was struggling to like at this point, I had no eyebrows. I mean, these are faded in right now with pencil, but I
Sure.
had no eyebrows. I didn't have my hair, and so every morning I went through the whole, filling in my eyebrows, putting my wig on, getting the tape right, making sure the lace wasn't popping up, and
Right.
it was this one Saturday where it just wasn't looking right, and I think I just like stood in the bathroom for like half hour or so, and I all those feelings started to come back of like I hate how I look. I hate that I look like this. I hate myself. Why do I look like this? Um,
Hmm.
and oh, and sorry, just to quickly backtrack, it got to the point where, I'm married. I've been married now. I'm about to be 6 years. And
Hey.
eight.
Congrats.
When thank you. When we first got married, like Carlos knew about my situation, but no matter how many times he told me, like, you're beautiful, I didn't believe that.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I wouldn't take off my wig until it was time for bed. Like I washed my face, I did everything I had to do. Okay, I'm in bed. Whoop, then I take it off. I would keep my wig on
Wow.
the entire time.
Even while
Um, you
married,
know,
like that.
yeah, even while married. Like I thought that like I didn't look right. I didn't
Hmm.
look right, and I'm like I didn't even want to see myself without it. Like whenever I'd get dressed for the day, I'd be
Wow.
like, my outfit's not complete. Okay, wig. Okay, now I look good. Um,
Hmm.
so fast forward back to what I was talking about when I was in the bathroom, and all those emotions were starting to come out. Like I think I was tearing up too. I don't know, but it was just this moment of like self-hate, down talking myself and all this stuff. And literally, like the thought came to me like, D, like, why are you talking hate to God's creation? Like,
Hmm.
who are you? Like, why are you talking this way to yourself? And I had that moment of like, how can I like say that I'm a believer and talk to other people about God's love and how He loves you as you are, yet I can't embrace that for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and at that time too, I
Wow.
remember meeting um, the niece of a friend of mine that had alopecia, and she was also I think around like 10 years old or so. And I met her with my wig on, and she asked her mom, like, Mom, is she like me? She's like, yeah, she
Mm.
has alopecia just like you. But she was like, Mom, but she has hair. How is she like me? And
Wow.
Leilani, I tell you, when I when I heard her say that, my heart broke. My heart broke because I'm
Wow.
like, this little girl just wanted to connect with someone that looked like her. Yet
Wow.
because I
That's
was
so
still
powerful.
struggling with it,
Yes.
you know?
You couldn't get yourself to,
Ah,
yes, to let that go.
no, at all. Ah, so yeah, so that's I guess the that moment for me where I realized like things have to change from here. Like, Darlene, you need a mindset shift,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I couldn't continue living my life speaking hate to myself, telling myself that basically that I'm a mistake or that God doesn't
Mm.
love me the way I am, and putting my value on my hair, and
Mm.
then I started to read and look into how God sees me, right? The
Mm.
value
Yeah.
that that he's seen in my life, that I am worthy. So shifting that focus from self to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all
Oh, I see some
happened.
comments popping up there.
Oh yeah. It all happened from a moment, an aha moment of saying, like, messing with your wig and not being able to.
Get it right.
Yes. And like, how many of us have been in a moment of frustration like that, where it's something about the way we
Yeah.
look and we're judging ourselves because of that, and we're allowing that self-hate to be our story. And that moment for you,
Yeah.
and that moment with the little girl really spoke to you.
Uh, yeah, she really did. And I think there too, like after, changing, God changing my focus, like, okay, do you need to focus on who I say you are, not on who you think you
Mm,
are and how you think other people see you, but what matters is how I see you, right?
yeah.
I chose you and I set you apart.
Yeah.
And I think for me, holding on to that is what helps me like walk out there and be like, well, I know I'm not sick, so I'm fine. Other people will look at me, but it's like, all right, shake it off. Hey, how you
Yeah.
doing?
Right.
And yeah, and so I wanted to, in a way, I guess, take control of my alopecia narrative, where it's like,
Hmm.
if I want to wear a wig, I can wear a wig, but I don't want it to be the controlling factor of my life where it's like, I need a wig to feel beautiful or that I need
Yeah.
hair to feel beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like, I know God has allowed this in my life for a reason and to like
Hmm.
show me things. And
Yeah.
like, that my confidence is not on my outward appearance, but my
Yes.
confidence should come from Him,
Yes. Yes.
right?
So when was that
Ooh,
moment where you said, I'm no longer wearing a wig? Because you have this aha moment where you see yourself and you say, wow, look at all the self-hate I've been inflicting on who
yeah.
got God's creation. What happened? Like, did you continue wearing the wig? Like,
Oh my
what
gosh.
took place?
Oh man. So yeah, so when that happened, this was 2019? No, 18. It's about 3 years ago. I was like, you know what?
Mm,
All of these things have added up to the point where I kind of felt like I needed to break out from something. And I
okay.
guess the something was the burden of feeling that I had to wear a wig, excuse me, to feel good.
Beautiful.
So
Hmm.
I think it was definitely like in the winter and I was still working in the city and I was like, am I really gonna do this? And I was like, you know what? I need to do this for myself and I'm gonna try it. Leilani, I think I went to a TJ Maxx store that was right by my job. I bought a little beanie hat. I bought a little beanie hat. And when I got to work, I took off my wig, I put it in a bag, and I put on the hat. And
Baby
I had a
steps.
really close, yeah, I had a close coworker of mine. I was like, listen, you're gonna have to help me with this.
Wow.
And it took me a few days of wearing the hat only before I finally decided to take off the hat. And dude, I felt like I was in middle school all over again because then folks, without knowing, they were like, "Why are you wearing a hat? You look like a cancer girl." And I'm like,
Stop.
"Oh my
So
gosh."
so
I'm
it's
like,
almost like you're
"Yes,
reliving this middle school
yes,
moment. So how
yes.
what gave you the
Oh my
courage to then
gosh."
say, I'm going to now own not wearing a
Mm.
hat and walk out the way that God has created me to be?
Yeah, I had to give myself the only pep talk, and then with my coworker, a good friend of mine, Darleny, she's like, "Get it together, ubícate." She's like, "Let's
Right.
go." She's like, "I'm gonna walk with you."
Wow.
So I'm like, "Thank you." And so, I took off my hat, I sat at my desk, I cried, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Why am I crying at work?" But
Yeah.
it was in a way, I cried and I felt like I was dealing with all those emotions again, but I also felt like freed from that like burden that I'm like, I knew I needed to do this for myself and I did it.
Mm.
Um, so I was relieved in a way, and then sorry, were you gonna say
No,
something?
go, go.
Oh, no, and then after that, just going day by day, um, dealing with the looks, of course. At that time I was
Yeah.
taking the train to work, and I tell you, I've seen a mix of things. I've seen some people that smile, look at you, head nod, and then you have folks that look at you like scrunching their brows, like shaking their head. And
Yeah.
I've had folks like on the train, there's seats next to me and they won't sit next to me and they'll sit like 3 seats down.
Wow.
And it was just going through all those emotions. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Do people really think I'm sick? And then, I had also folks that were treating me extra nice because they thought that
You
I
were
was
sick.
sick.
Sure.
So it's just like a mix of emotions. And I was telling my husband today, because now the weather's getting warmer and I don't have to
Sure.
wear a winter hat anymore. I said, I kind of feel like I'm going through my coming out baldy moment again. Every
Every
transition
season.
from winter to, yeah, every season.
Wow.
Because everyone starts looking and staring, and I've gotten to a point where I don't pay mind to it, but at first it really bothered me,
Bothered
you
you.
know.
You know what's powerful? Yes. Walk with you, Michaela.
Yes.
Listen, I needed to stop and say this because you just said something and I don't want you to miss it, Darleny, as well. And to those of you who are watching, you have the power to be somebody's courage, somebody's strength, somebody's aha moment, right? That opportunity to literally walk with somebody. That is, to me, this is
Wow.
almost like discipleship, right? It's like
Yes.
that friend said, no, this is who you are. You are beautiful, you are strong. You do not need to hide behind the weight of, and for you, your weight and your burden was your wig.
Yeah.
Right? For some of
Yeah.
us, it's something else. But for you, it was your wig. And this friend said, no, I refuse to allow you to walk burdened. And so I
Mm.
am going to walk with you. I am going to walk with you. How powerful is that? And I just want to encourage somebody who's watching, be that friend, be
Yes.
that person who can walk with somebody else, be somebody's courage. Yes. Fill
Yes.
in the gap, fill in the space. Legit chills. Absolutely. When you said that, I was like, girl, I'm waiting. I'm sitting on this because that is so powerful.
That is
That
so
is,
crazy. I didn't even think about that.
it is so powerful to your story that
Wow.
friend was able to recognize your value aside from your wig and aside from the thing that was holding you down and say, no, we're going to do this
Yeah.
together. We're going to do this together.
Yes.
How powerful. How powerful. Man, that is just so beautiful. And I just want to, yes, be the voice for somebody else. We have said this before.
Yes.
Be
Yes.
the voice for somebody else. And you know, the other thing I wanted to say, that Lenise, and you
Mm-hmm.
sharing that every season, you have to kind of go through this coming out moment, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you
Yeah.
almost have to experience some of those emotions again. Here's what's
Yes.
beautiful about it. And you can answer this. Are you the same
Mm-hmm.
person today that you were 3 years ago?
Not at all.
And I had another question. Does each season that you have to take off your hat, right? Every winter you take off your hat and now you have to embrace yourself all over. Do you feel stronger each time?
I definitely so. Because you know what? Like when so the first few seasons where I had to do this, I was filled with so much anger towards people.
Mm.
I was angry all the time. I would give people the looks back. I would stare at them like, yes. And and I it just I there was just a lot of anger,
Yeah.
during that transition, and I guess me dealing with the emotions and trying to, take in and live the lifestyle of like, hey, what matters is what God thinks of me, not what others thinks of me. So all of that, and then dealing with people's sometimes, I guess, naiveness, maybe, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
or I don't know, imprudencia sometimes.
Yeah. That's
I don't even say that in
rudeness. They're
English.
rudeness.
Rudeness, yeah. Um, it would just get me so upset. But I
Yeah.
think now, as like it's been 3 years that I've been, doing this, it's like I no longer feel that anger towards people, you know? And it's
Mm,
like, yeah, all right, people are rude. That's them. I know who I am.
yeah. That
Yeah.
confidence to know that your anger, was about was something deeper. And how many times
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that happen to us, right? Our anger is not really anger, it's sadness, it's
Yeah.
frustration, it's hurt, right? It's brokenness. And how beautiful it is that you have allowed, like I was talking about the kintsugi bowls, you've allowed some of those scars, right? Some of those scars
Yeah.
of the hate that people projected onto you, and the discomfort and
Mm-hmm.
all those things, to allow that healing to happen so that God can shine through you. Sounds like you had a lot of forgiveness to do. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And I think too, now that I see that comment, it also has to do, I think, with how growing up I always felt like something was just wrong with me, that I
Mm,
was, seen as not normal. And I
mm,
guess dealing with that and kind of retraining myself to think that there's nothing wrong with not having hair, you know?
yes.
And it kind of makes me think of, is it Paul that says that with, like God takes our weaknesses to,
Yes. He makes right.
yeah,
Right. It's in our weakness that
right.
he's
So
strong. Mhm.
exactly. So for me, and this actually ties back to what my mom used to tell me about my hair. She reflects
Mm,
about it. She was like, Darlene, maybe this is the thing that keeps you humble. She was like, well, maybe,
mm.
if you would have had all your hair doing your thing, maybe you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Right.
And it makes me think back to that. I'm like, Lord, like if this is the thing that is keeping me, I guess, grounded in you,
Yeah.
um, I want him to take this story to help other people. And one
Yeah.
of the things that I noticed, and with Jazzy, the little girl I mentioned to you guys, that
Yeah.
she just like broke my heart, is that I want to be that person that 10-year-old me needed back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like
That's deep.
Jazzy needed to see someone that she could connect with and relate to,
Yes.
and to see that she could live a normal life even without hair. I
Mm.
want to be that. I needed that when I was growing up, and I think seeing that would have helped me, I guess, normalize my situation,
Yeah.
and that I wouldn't be struggling with the feelings that I'm struggling with now. Oh, cheekbones and
Yes.
almond eyes. Thank you.
It's something I said earlier. As a society, we need to normalize seeing beauty in all aspects, right? Not just in the face tuned faces, right? And in the hair and in the
Right.
eyelashes, the makeup. But yes, be the person that I needed. Whew, child. If we healing
Yeah.
those inner child wounds, absolutely. And here's what's beautiful, that Lenise, is that you now are that person for a Jazzy,
Mm.
a 10-year-old, a little kid who's experiencing the same struggles and is dealing with those insecurities and questioning who they are and why this is happening to them, and are they normal, and will they ever be normal, will
Mm-hmm.
they ever be loved. You are walking proof that they can be loved, that they are beautiful,
Yep.
right? Cecile, I love this quote.
Right.
She says, always remember you are braver than you think, stronger than you seem, and loved more than you
Mm.
know. Absolutely. So that, Lenny's,
Right.
tell me, the first time that you had to share, right? Now you're owning, who you are. You call it baldy, right? That's how you refer to yourself as.
Yeah, cause that was the word that people would use to make fun of me
Wow.
back
Can you
then. They were
speak
like,
to that?
baldy, baldy. So I'm like, you know what? I am owning this word. I call myself a baldy, and I'm okay with
Oh my
it.
gosh, I love that. I love that. The epitome of taking something that was thrown at you for hate and you adopting it as
Yes,
something
yes.
that is beautiful and you. So tell me what happened. Yes, you've been liberated. Miriam says you've been liberated, girl, and We
Yeah.
love to see it. I want to point this out before you answer this question because I
Yeah.
think it's powerful for anybody watching. Judith says, didn't realize you were going through so much during high school. All I remember was you were a very talented and beautiful distance runner.
Aw,
Listen, can we
that's my
talk about,
coach.
listen, hey coach. Okay. Can we talk about something real quick? We wear our pain and we wear our shame to the point where we can't value the other things that are part of who we are and that are
Mm,
shining in spite of those things. So, in spite of what you were experiencing, you were shining, girl. Look, she's saying you were a brilliant runner, right? You were beautiful. I mean, she's recognizing that, and she didn't know that you were going through all of that.
oh, thank you, coach.
All she was seeing were your strengths and how many, and you're walking around with your head down, okay?
Yes.
Because you didn't believe you were good enough. And other
Wow.
people were seeing who you really were, and you couldn't see that in yourself. And so that
Mm,
is the problem with carrying our shame instead of recognizing it
that's
and
so
working
true.
through it, pushing through it, healing through it, and recognizing our identity in Christ. Yes,
Mm,
Cecile, wow, you have no idea what people are going through. Absolutely
that's
not.
so true.
Absolutely not. So girl, tell me, how did you come to a
Yes.
place that first time you're owning, your baldness and all its beauty and glory? The first time you had to share your story, tell me what happened and how did you come to that
Oh,
place?
Jesus. It was a kind of like a not planned event when I first shared my story. It was a few years ago. I was invited to sing with a group of young ladies to lead worship for a women's
Hmm.
event.
Okay.
And they asked me to do a special song on my own also. And that was like the first public event that I had been at with no wig. So I went, and I'm like, okay, great, we're good. And, ladies that I haven't seen in a while are greeting me and they're like, what happened? I'm like, no, I'm okay, explaining, oh yeah, alopecia, I'm good. And I start singing the song and I think that it was the part of a song where it's talking about being healed from,
Hmm.
yeah, being healed. And Leilani, I tell you, I'm looking out at the crowd, and at that moment is where I start thinking about everything. Like, I have no hair, I am singing, I'm talking about being healed. All these thoughts just started rushing through my head, and
Wow.
I stopped singing. I couldn't keep singing. I cried, and like the girls that were with me came up to try to help me finish the song, and I stepped down and Leilani, the first thing I said when I sat down, I'm like, no, now people are really gonna think that I have cancer and that I'm sick.
Oh no.
I know. And it was just
Just a
so
real
overwhelming,
moment.
everything put together.
Hmm.
Yeah. And luckily, I got the opportunity. The folks that were running the event, they had asked me to share a part of my story.
Yeah.
So I explained before the event ended, what I had, that alopecia, and what I've been learning throughout that. There's a little fly, learning throughout the entire time. And after that moment, like I thought, okay, people know what I'm going through, and it's fine. But after the event, so many women were coming up to me, thanking me for
Hmm.
sharing what I had shared. And a lot of them said that they felt encouraged, that they were like, you know what, my
Wow.
confidence is in God. I am beautiful. And one lady, she also wore a wig, and she told me that at that moment when I shared my story, she felt like getting up, taking off her wig, and saying, "I'm with you." I was like, "Oh, good for you. You
Liberation
just
for
like
all.
to." Yeah. But like just hearing so many women coming up and telling me that they resonated with what I was saying,
Yeah.
and I was like, Lord, I think you want me to like talk more about this and share my story. And
Mm.
after that, Leilani, like multiple people would not that they were connected to this event, but other people were asking me to talk about my story. And I kept
Mm.
getting invites, and speaking for me is one of those things that I have always ran away from. And I just felt that God kept calling me out to this. And I journaled one time, like, Lord, is this that do you want me to speak more? And I've just kept
Mm.
getting invites from folks to talk about my story.
Wow. Wow. It's almost
So
like God
yeah.
continued to bring about these experiences before you. You know what's
Mm.
crazy is almost like to continue to heal those parts of you, right?
Yes,
To heal
over and
those
over
parts of
again.
yes. So what has sharing your story inspired you to do? Like what has it led you to do outside? I mean, you're sharing it more. So tell us a little bit about what it's inspired.
Yeah, so like I shared before that I want to be the person that 10-year-old me needed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like for me. Like what I can like practically do like moving forward over and over again.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I know like on my social media, my personal page, I try to post photos from like photo shoots or like share thoughts here and there.
Yeah.
Um, on my like business side, with my photography, like I try to put myself out there more, and a lot of girls that have alopecia have followed me too. And I guess
Mm,
just trying to like give a sense of normalcy, like, hey, I'm a
yeah.
baldy and I can still keep on with my life. It doesn't make me any
Yeah.
different from anyone else.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'm still trying to figure what that looks like for me as far as like, sharing my story moving forward or like especially for younger girls and boys.
Sure. But it seems like just living out your life in confidence and owning who you are
Yeah.
is allowing you to share with confidence so that Adrian said it perfectly. Where did he say it? As she heals, the people she shares with heals.
Yes, yes. I heard this quote too where it was like, I want to be so unapologetically me that it inspires
Mm,
other people to
to
also
do the
be
same.
themselves.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
man.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
like you
And
need that permission, which is crazy. I don't
yes.
know.
No, and God's created us to walk in our truth, and in that he shines through. Listen, I want
Hmm.
to there was a question here that I want to bring up, and I want to
Yeah.
actually I didn't prep you for this for
Oh
this,
boy.
but yeah, she does sing. She actually has a beautiful voice. You can hear some of her stuff on her um on your Instagram, right? You have some stuff.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, on my Instagram I have, and then I also have linked to the band that I sing
Okay.
with.
So you guys can check it out here, but there was a question from Crystal that I'm trying to find here. She said, how did you overcome your negative self-talk? And share a little bit with that, and then I want to share a picture,
Hmm.
one of the pictures that you sent me, and I want you to speak to it before. So go ahead and I'm trying to find the comment. I can't find it because there's so many comments, but she asked specifically, how did you overcome that self-hate,
Yeah.
self-talk? Share a little bit about that.
So Crystal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Crystal, like for me,
There we go.
I
How
guess I
did you
had
stop?
to, yeah. So I literally had to retrain my mind, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I spent a lot of time. One of my go-to verses is, I think it's Philippians 4:6 or Ephesians, where it says, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are perfect
Pure.
or a pure of good
Yeah.
report, to think on these things. And
Yes.
that verse has been key for me, where the very first part is to think on things that are true. And
Yeah.
if the things that I'm telling
Mm.
myself are not true, then why am I thinking about it, right? And this and this relates to like everything from like
Yes.
arguments with spouse or I thought he
Yes.
said this and I was like, well, that's not true. So
Right.
yeah. And
Anxiety, fear.
yes, yes,
Yes. Is it true? Is what I'm
yes,
thinking true? That is
exactly.
that's healing for somebody today. Okay? Because talk about it, girl. Are these things true? Yeah.
Exactly. Is this true? And just reading verses about, being and living fearless, right?
Yeah.
How God calls us out to be fearless.
Yes.
It's like, don't fear, I am with you.
Yes.
And that he tells us that time after time in the Bible and reading verses on how he sees me, right?
Yes.
How he values me. I
Yeah.
wrote down a few verses. I don't even know where they are anymore, but basically on yeah how he sees us, that he created
Yes.
us, how he created us, right? So reading through those type of verses and constantly focusing on who Jesus is and who God
Mm-hmm.
is that has kind of helped me shift that narrative.
Wow.
I still struggle with
Yeah.
doubt and self-doubt and, those negative thoughts. But it literally takes you rehearsing this stuff over and over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have post-its by my desk, with reminders.
Sure.
And yeah, when those thoughts come to me, I literally say out loud, like, Dios, God, help me. I'll sing a song, or I'll recite Philippians 4:6. Like, nope, get those thoughts out of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Focus on what's true.
It's literally strengthening a muscle. It's
Yeah.
literally strengthening a muscle. And you are doing
Mm-hmm.
it, girl. We have to stop believing the lies. Yes,
Yes.
Evie, we have to stop believing the lies and speak truth over ourselves. So
Yeah.
I want to pull up this picture and I want you to speak to what was happening here. And then
Oh.
we'll wrap up. But
Ah. For a second, I thought we were going like back, back, back. I'm like, oh, what
no,
photo
no.
does she
Tell
have?
me, tell me about this. Tell us about this experience for you.
Yes. Oh man, so this photo shoot was with my good friend Ona. Um, excuse me. She reached out to me because she wanted to do an empowerment photo series for bald women. And
Hmm.
she asked me, Darlenis, what are words that, you know, you feel embody your baldness now? So you see words here
Mm.
like normal. I
Yes.
did not feel normal growing up,
Hmm.
Feminine. I did not feel feminine. I did not feel fierce. I did not feel like a woman. So we put all these
Hmm.
words portraying the things that I want to embody, being
Wow.
brave. And I think Baldy's also there. Um, and so so we did the photo shoot, and for me, this was so fun. I felt, you know, liberated in a way, and
Yeah.
backtracking actually, we spoke about this, Leilani, but
Yeah.
so I've done other photo shoots, like when I was kind of starting to dabble in like, should I take off my wig or not?
Yeah.
And I looked at those pictures then, and I would look at them and say, ill, why do I look
Mm.
that way? Like, I'm sure if
Wow.
I saw this picture then, I'd be like, ew, like, why do I look like that?
Wow.
I could not look at those pictures and think that I was normal or looked fine.
Yeah.
And that was from another photo shoot. And now I look back to those photos and I'm like, oh, I look fine. My head's good, like that looks fine.
I look beautiful.
And it was like because of where my mindset was, I was blinded to see that. I
Mm.
guess that I was fine back then,
Yes.
but I thought it was disgusting. I thought
Yeah.
being bald and not having hair was abnormal, you know.
Mm. Girl.
I mean, though we all naturally come with hair, but you know, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
No, but it speaks to a deeper thought, and I shared this
Yeah,
with you, the idea that the narrative that we tell ourselves, the things
yes,
that we talk ourselves into believing about who we are the
yes,
lens by which we see ourselves and by which we see life, and
yes,
but the lens by
100%.
which we see others, right? So literally, you couldn't take these images in as something beautiful because you were telling yourself that this wasn't beautiful.
Right.
And so you saw your life like that. And so the moment God frees you and you're able to own it and say, no, I am beautiful. I am made in God's image. This is who he made me to be,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what you feel, knowing the truth of who you were now allows you to see from a different perspective. Yes, Glady, a different perspective. It's everything.
Yes,
And now you're able to look back at those pictures and see, no, they are beautiful.
they're fine.
They are beautiful
Yeah,
because I am beautiful. I am not, my
exactly.
beauty is not determined by my hair, by what I
Right.
wear. It's determined by who God says I am. Listen,
Exactly. Yes.
listen, Darlenis, thank you so much for knowing, owning, and sharing your story, and for being the voice to somebody who needs to hear it, for being the image, literally,
Mm,
right? The thing that you were struggling with, your self-image, you are now using the image that God has created you to be that for somebody else, to be grace and love, to help someone else know that they are loved, they are
mhm,
cared for, and that they can do this too. And so thank you for your
mhm.
confidence. Thank you for your courage. Alma says, God bless you. You're beautiful. I love you both. We love you, girl. This is like my second mom. But listen, thank you so much for being so brave and sharing your story. And I am excited for how God is going to continue to use your boldness to continue to move forward. Thank you for sharing your story. Absolutely. We are all made in the image of God. May we live this truth, not just say it, but may we actually live it. Darleny, what is your Instagram handle so that they can connect with you?
Yeah, so it's Avi Ezri, Aviezri. That means my father is my help in Hebrew.
Hey,
so
that's amazing.
Find me there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. You are gorgeous. Girl, drop your handle when you're done here. Go on Facebook and drop your handle so they can see your beautiful work and your beautiful personality. Carlos, that's her hubby, showing her some love. All right, Darleny, I will talk to you in a little bit. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining today. Man, what a blessing her story was. I am so excited for you to be inspired to move and live in the identity that God has called you in. May you live out your story this week and never forget that God wants to shine through those broken pieces. He wants to shine. Your scars are your story. And so live in that truth. Join us next week, same time, as we connect with Deanne Snell through her journey of self-sacrifice and raising her children. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Leilani Langdon. See you then.